Thanks for your patience, guys. We'll just do an all-in usual process. We'll start with James, Sky Sports News, and then Joe.
All right. Sound. Good. These mics. Can I put these down a bit?
Yeah.
Perfect. Huh?
Thanks, Dan. Nice.
Wow. A bit shorter than others.
Camera's all good at the back. Excellent. Over to you, James. Go ahead.
Brendon, you're extending your contract to 2027, taking on all formats. Why do you feel now is the right time to take on that added responsibility and, of course, the added workload?
Yeah, it's going to be an added workload, that's for sure, but that's all right. Sometimes the bets are worth it, right? So I think, firstly, when Keezy asked me, is there a world in which you can do all jobs across all formats, I sort of had a bit of a think about it and obviously chatted to my wife and then it didn't take a whole lot of persuading, to be honest. I think a couple of years ago when I came here, I didn't have a whole lot of knowledge about English cricket. I didn't know a whole lot of people, and fast forward 2 years, I've had a great time. Absolutely loved being in the position I'm in. I think I've got a lot more knowledge about the people and the talent that sit with English cricket, and also the structures and how things operate. And I've also built some great friendships with some of the guys, the coaches and the support staff, etc. So I know that you're not going at this one alone. You're gonna have some great support, and ultimately I looked at the opportunity and I thought, what a great chance to have a good crack.
And how will you manage the increased workload and the schedule? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, probably got to be a little bit more engaged when I'm at home, and bring the family along for the ride a little bit more. But look, I think if we look at the schedule, it's definitely easing. I think over the last 2 years, it would have been nigh on impossible for anyone to do all three formats, and I think hence why we went down the split coaches route. Now with the schedule easing, I'll say slightly easing, but easing enough, I think it gives you the ability to be able to have one person in the role. There will be times where we'll have to be smart with stepping players and also support staff in and out, and that will include myself as well. But I don't see that as a problem. I think ultimately I'm happy to be governed by the results and be the one that's in the gun if things don't work out. But there's some opportunities there for some of the other coaches which sit within our group at the moment to actually step up and run the team in a head coach capacity, just like Trez is going to do over the next series as well. So I think that's great, because ultimately, when I bugger off in 3.5 years or whatever, you want the next group of coaches, or those who that you've been able to bring along, to be viable head coach candidates, and it should last a lot longer than the time that you're there. So whilst it's a challenge, I also see it as an opportunity.
There's a view that the white ball side is stale, stagnant. Do you agree with that, and how much re-energising do you think it needs?
Look, I think firstly we need to acknowledge that white ball side has been through, I guess, a bit of a dynasty, from the time that Morgs started it, and from then they've won a couple of World Cups, and we've seen some once in a generation players all come through at the same time. Some of those guys are now coming towards the end of their careers, so there's a natural regeneration which is going to be required, and that's the bit that really excites me, because I look around the talent within English cricket, and a lot of that talent, particularly in white ball stuff, they've learnt how to play from those once in a generation cricketers that are now moving on. So it's a great compliment to them. And I think we've got some opportunities to introduce some of that talent, to mix it and blend it with some of the guys who are still operating, who have got the experiences and have been a part of that success over a period of time. And we try and, I guess, bring the positivity and the style that I like to operate with across all formats. I think it will give us a good chance of being successful.
And Joss Butler's position has been questioned as well. How confident are you that he is the man to take this white ball team forward? I'm very confident. I think, so when I started this gig with the Test side, Stokes and I knew each other, like we had a natural respect for each other, but you wouldn't say we were mates. We got on all right, but we weren't really mates. What we've developed over the last couple of years is a very close friendship where, we're to the point I call him a very close mate, and
And as much as you're trying to do the stuff for cricketing reasons and to try and be successful, ultimately you want good friendships and relationships to develop to last far longer than the time that you've got in the job. Joss and I actually start from a stronger position. We know each other, we're mates, we have similar understanding of similar styles of playing our own game. What I want from Joss, I guess, is for him to enjoy the next few years. If he was to retire today, he'd go down as probably the greatest white ball player England's ever produced. So his opportunity over the next 3-4 years, however long he plays for, while he's captaining England, is to just enjoy it, not protect anything, just get the most out of all those guys around him, keep walking towards danger, play with a smile on his face, and just try and do something which is really cool, which you can look back on and say, gee, I enjoyed those last few years. And that'll be my job, is to keep pushing him towards that. And I'm sure our relationship will go from mates. Well, I hope our relationship will go from mates to very good mates too.
And finally for me, just you mentioned Ben Stokes. Does you extending your contract to 27 mean he will continue as Red Bull captain to 27? And what vision do you have for him in terms of his white ball future? Have you talked about that with him? Skipper
and we haven't spoken about that actually, but I'm assuming he's all in. I don't know, but he seems like that sort of bloke. I think, like, he's been incredible, right? And our relationship is fantastic. You never know where the game's going globally and what opportunities will pop up for him, which will challenge him. But I know how invested he is in English cricket and how determined he is to drive this team forward. So I'd assume that would involve him being in charge for that period of time, even though he's building a group of leaders around him that are growing and prospering in those leadership roles too. In regards to the white ball, yeah, why not? Well, I guess we'll see again where he sits. I think he loves big moments and he loves big stages. As we'll have to do with all our players, there'll be times where they can't play everything. So there will be some bilateral series where we simply can't have all of our best players playing at the same time. But when it comes to major events and big series, I think those players are very much in those discussions.
Joe, go ahead.
Brendon, I'm sure English cricket fans are realistic. They won't expect you to win everything. They'd probably settle for the next 50 over World Cup in the Ashes. Do you think that's feasible?
Yeah, look, we'll see what happens. But I think, why not? Look, obviously I love winning as well. That's the ultimate goal. That's what we're judged on, the wins and the losses. That's how your roles are defined and how they're determined eventually. But everyone wants to win. Every single team out there wants the same. So if it's as simple as we can win, then yes, it needs to have a bit more grunt than that. For us, it's about trying to create an environment where guys feel positive. They feel like they can allow their talent to come out. They become better versions of themselves. They're able to make better decisions, and they understand ultimately how to shift pressure onto opposition in key moments in games. And that doesn't matter whether it's Test cricket, one-day cricket, or T20 cricket. It's able to block out the noise. It's able to be present in that moment, and it's able to be able to hopefully ultimately get success because of the cricketers you become. So look, we'll see where we land, but some pretty good talent around here, and no reason why we shouldn't be in the running.
Yeah, I'll just pick up on that if I can. Some really interesting selections. I mean, Josh, while we're here, in terms of what you said at the start about getting to know everything about English cricket, I mean, there are a lot of professional cricketers in England playing across 4 different formats. I mean, do you think there is the structure there to enable you to have the best group of players in the world when it comes to international cricket?
Look, I think India's got an incredible resource pool. They just keep producing talent after talent after talent. And they've got, obviously, sheer numbers as well. But there's no reason with the passion for the game in this country, the history and traditions of the game in this country, the fact that it's incredibly well supported, and the talent structure and the talent pool that sits within this country, there's no reason why it can't be challenging India in that regard for all the major titles. There's no reason why not. I guess that's probably my job. I've got to work out. But yeah, there's certainly no reason why not. Great talent sits within English cricket. It's about realising that talent and bringing it together for one common vision.
Okay, thanks. Joe, go.
Brendon, you made it clear at the start of this summer that you were rebuilding the team with the Ashes in mind and sort of making some big calls to try and push the team on for that next big target. Is there any danger at all that doing this job is going to spread you a little bit thin and maybe take that laser focus, spread it a wee bit thin and take you away from that goal?
I don't think so, but we'll find out. I think, I think as a player I had a pretty good ability to be able to turn the page because I was very inconsistent. I was able to, and I needed to turn the page quickly. I think that sort of taught me a lot of skills around being able to compartmentalise and to be able to, you treat success and failure in the same breath and not let it affect the vision that you have for the team and the direction that you want things to go. So now, whilst it'll be on a broader sense across different formats, I still ultimately have conviction in where you think you can take a team, and the decisions you make along the way are always geared towards those. So, I don't see it being a problem. There may be times where it's tested, but that's the exciting part of doing jobs like this, right? Is you are tested and you are put under pressure at times, and you are challenged about the methods that you have and the vision that you have, and it's a matter of remaining firm to that and still having the clarity to be able to get the players that you've got and the environment that you've got to excel.
Lawrence, and we'll do Julian and Will. Lawrence, you pass the mic.
Oh, sorry. Just wondered what you've learnt about Ollie Pope as a captain and what conversations, if any, you've had with him about the fact that he's not quite had the series he would have wanted with the bat.
Yeah, look, I think Popey, it was only a couple of tests ago, he was scoring runs and playing really well, right? I think you take a couple of options in test cricket and sometimes it doesn't work out. Number 3 is a very difficult place to bat over here. He's done a great job for us over the last couple of years in that position, and he would have loved to have scored more runs since he's taken over the captaincy, but you don't always get what you wish for, right? And he still hasn't, in my mind, it hasn't affected his leadership, which is very important. I think he's grown a lot in 2 tests too. I think his best session in charge was probably the last session of the match where he became ultra aggressive and put a lot of pressure on Sri Lanka with the fields that he set and the carrots that he dangled. He's been great. I've been totally impressed with how Popey's been able to handle the job so far, and that's great because ultimately, like Stokesy is our leader, and ultimately you need to make sure that the things don't come crashing down if your leader's not there for a series or two. And it's great credit to Stokesy that he's put faith in Popey, and it's great credit to Popey that he's been able to stand up. And there's other guys as well that have stood up over the last few tests in those leadership capacities. So it's good. We're improving.
Can I just ask about Joss? You said you want him to enjoy himself. Has your sense been over the last couple of years that hasn't been the case?
Yeah, he's been a little bit miserable, hasn't he, at times. So, I think he's not naturally as expressive and as what some may be, but I think he's done a great job. Right? He's won a World Cup. He's been, as captain, he's been part of World Cup winning teams previously as well. He's an incredibly gifted player. He's a fine leader. My job is to get the best out of him so that all those that sit in the dressing room feel like they can be 10-foot tall and bulletproof when they walk out to play, and they know that the skipper's going to give them that extra pat on the back and enjoy the ride with them. So, look, it's a great challenge. I'm so excited about it, and I know that Joss is too, which is great, and also know that Stokesy's really at peace with and excited about, I guess, me taking on those roles too, which was a very important part for me too.
Yeah. Since you've taken over as in charge of the test team, you've given a lot of debuts to young players based more on their sort of skill set and sort of potential for improvement rather than just sort of county averages and domestic form. But even by those standards, Josh Hull is quite some pick. What is it that you've seen in him that makes you think he's ready for Test cricket?
Yeah, I think firstly we need to identify, and it's county cricket and test cricket are probably slightly different games, and if we were putting together a county side, it would look a little bit different to what it looks in a test side, and hence why our understanding of what counties are doing and the decisions that they make, they might not always line up with us, and that's cool. It's not, we don't do stuff in spite of that. We completely understand they have a different job to do. What we're trying to achieve is bring some of these guys who we see as rough diamonds with incredibly high ceilings, bring them into an environment where we think we're able to shape them and give them the opportunities and hasten the process of them getting to the level that we think they can get at. The talent we've introduced has exceeded expectations, if I'm being totally honest. I think you always hope the guys go well early, but you're not after that instant gratification when you pick them. If you're doing that, then I think you're guessing. We look at these guys and we go, we think they're going to be good. It might take a bit of time, but they're worth investing in. Zach Crawley was a good example of that a couple of years ago. Some of these other guys that have come in have done it quicker than what I thought they would do, and that's incredibly encouraging, probably testament to the leadership of Stokesy and the leaders within the setup. Josh Hull, 6 foot heaps, bowls left arm, ranges and pace from 80 to 90 miles an hour, swings it not too dissimilar to the likes of Jimmy Anderson. He's 20 years of age, good farming stock. I mean, it's not a huge gamble, is it? It might not be this test match. It might not go that well, but it doesn't matter, and that's because ultimately he's someone that we look at is going to be able to provide us with another string to our bow, another weapon that is going to make us a more rounded side that can challenge teams in various conditions. The footmarks that he's going to present as well for Shoaib Bashir will be interesting. It'll give Bash a lot of excitement too. But again, I stress, if this isn't the week, and we're all super excited for Josh, he's going to play tomorrow, and we hope he goes well. He might go out there and take 10 for, we've got no idea. But it kind of doesn't matter because we see him as someone that's worth investing in, worth giving opportunities to, and whatever happens, we'll wrap our arm around him and make sure that he knows that he's firmly in our sights for the future.
Okay, we're just going to move on quickly. One each from Will, Ali, John, and then we'll finish with Stefan and Vish.
Brendon, on a similar note, you obviously won 5 tests this summer, but do you kind of feel that the changes you've made to your test team this summer have set you on the team on the path to kind of for the remainder of your time in charge, which is obviously now a bit longer than it was going to be? Do you think that path has been set, if you like?
Yeah, look, I think if we look back to India and, when we all sat around in India, those that travelled over there, and we talked about the need for refinement. And I guess what I meant by that refinement is that not so much about we need to stop playing as many shots with a bat. That's certainly not what I meant. What I meant was that we need to look at trying to provide ourselves with a slight freshen up of personalities and types of players that is going to give us more ammunition, particularly with the ball, to be able to compete against the best teams in varied conditions around the world. Naturally, our batting lineup has matured because over 2 years now, it's been a pretty much the same nucleus of players, and there's a familiarity around each other's games which is starting to develop. People are happy that Joe Root does what Joe Root does, Ben Duckett does what Ben Duckett does, Harry Brook does what Harry Brook does, etc., etc. It's sort of like we don't all want to be the same when it comes to a batting side. We want these guys to be the best versions of themselves, and from a bowling point of view, we want those varied skills to be able to complement one another to make a strong attack in different conditions. So I think there has been a refinement from that point of view. I think there's been a slight hardness of mentality of understanding when the games are on the line and trying to shift pressure onto opposition. I think we've been tested. It says 5-0. Make no mistake, we've been tested this summer. There's been a lot of test matches where it could have gone either way, and without that understanding of when the pressure is on, the game's on the line, and how to shift pressure back onto the opposition, the results may be different. So that's a really pleasing aspect, along with the emergence and development of the talent that's come in.
Just quickly, there's a few reports out of Pakistan that the test series there might be shifted. Have you guys heard anything about that?
Yeah, well, we don't really know, but we can't pick a team until we know where we're going to play. So it'd be nice if over the next couple of days we found out, and then we'll sit down and make sure we've got the right team for the right conditions and the right opposition.
One each, please, Will, and then John. Oh, sorry, Alec, go ahead.
Thank you. It actually just follows on from the answer that you were giving about how you've been tested this summer. You have got a chance to win all 6 this summer, which would be the first time England have had a sort of 100% record in their home summer for 20 years. I'm just wondering how you kind of view the health of the world game and the international game in particular overall. When you started in the test role, you were talking about, trying to breathe fresh life into test cricket. Do you think that's been achieved, or do you have concerns that perhaps there is a gap widening between the so-called big three and the chasing pack?
Do I have a view on it? Well, I think we've been involved in some great series, right? Like the Ashes last year was an absolute ripping series. Even India, I know we went down 4-1, but that was a cracking series too, where we had our chances. South Africa a couple of years ago, New Zealand series. West Indies was hard fought, albeit results our way. Sri Lanka's been hard fought. I think the skill set of the teams across world cricket is still strong. Obviously, we've got a great landscape in regards to the fan base that we have here in England, that it's still really well supported and there's a lot of investment in the game. A couple of those other countries, the bigger countries, have that same backing. Some of the smaller ones, or some of the lesser known ones, maybe not so much, or lesser funded ones, not so much. So that is a slight concern, I think, because ideally you want every single series you play to be played in front of the most amount of people you can, enjoyed by the most amount of people you can, and also, as challenging as what you possibly can as well, so that the product is at the highest. So, there is some challenges there. I don't have the answers, Ali, to be honest. Like, I've racked my brains as well at times when I've been asked about the health or direction of Test cricket. I don't have the answers, but it would be nice if it was competitive and well supported and well funded across the entire world game.
John, and then we'll go for Ollie Pope. Brilliant, that's great. Thank you. Seth?
Brendon, I know you don't always like to think too far ahead, but after that next Ashes series, did you think you were probably going to be done with English cricket, or had you already started to think, I might want to stay on, or was it just this dual role that persuaded you to give an extra 2 years to English cricket?
I hadn't really thought about it, to be honest. I was just cracking on with what we were doing. But yeah, I think it was only really once Kesey asked me, is there a world in which, you can do all roles? And then you start going, well, there is, but if we're going to do this, then let's we can do it for a natural cycle up until 2027, and that seemed to be the right fit for everyone. So I think it's worked out really well. I'm happy. It's going to be busy, but it's exciting, and the bet's worth it, I think.
Brilliant, well done. Thanks for that.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you, Tony. See you, Brownie.